Hi, Crafty Crystal here. In part 1, I'm showing you how to use the star gathered stitch to make this beautiful scarf. In part 2, I will show you how to make the matching hat. Stay tuned and have fun. I'm remaking the part about the chain and the half double I came back with because I've already done the whole 5 feet and came back and found out that the video did not have audio. So I'm going to show you what I did on the piece. When you're making your length, especially if you do a pattern and it says you need 201 stitches, say. You got your 201 and you're going to come back with a single stitch, say. So you don't count what's on your hook. You want to chain 1. And now here's the base chain for your single stitch. And here's your chain for your single stitch. And you would go in the next one. Like that. And you'd have a nice, good square edge for your base. If you're going to do a half double, here's where you chained 1. You would chain 2. And this is the chain base for your half double, the one you're holding, the 201st. Come to the one next to it, and that's where you're going to put your hook. And I'm going to use the back hump because I want to keep this one. Now the end of your chain with the two stitches comes down to meet your chain, your base chain, and you have your first stitch, and it's a nice square edge. It's not rounded, it's not pulling, and it's not gapped. Okay? Now I like to go through the humps instead of go through the sides because you get a finished edge. That way I know that I don't have to come all the way back down the other side and make another single crochet line or half double line or even slip stitches. I've got me a pretty finished edge right on the end. See, look at that. That's nice. Bottom and the top. And that's what you want. And because I did it loosely, I don't have anything pulling. My line will be straight. I won't have it curved around like this because my base is too tight. I want to go to the end here because I want to show you a little trick that you can use if you get all the way to the end of your chain, especially when it's long ones, and you find out that you're short. You could be short 2 stitches for the pattern, or 3, or just 1. I'll show you what you do here. These are your half doubles. Yarn over through your base, 3 loops on hook, pull a loop through all 3, yarn over through your base, 3 loops on hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Okay, you get to the end and you say, son of a gun, I'm 3 short. Now you could put a piece on the end and chain up and then work on it, or you could do like a foundation chain. They call these, this would be a half double foundation chain. And the reason why they call it is because you're making your chain and your half double at the same time. Now here's your last stitch right here. You're going to go in through this last stitch and you need another chain. So you bring your chain out. Now this is the last chain on your chain. New last chain. So you bring your loop through it. See? This is the extension right here of your chain. And now you have your 3 loops on the hook for the half double. Yarn over, pull through all 3, and you just extended your piece. And you could do that 2 more times if you wanted. Yarn over, see the last chain on the line? Put your hook through that, both sides. Pull your hook through, and now you just added another chain onto the end of your chain. Put yarn over and pull it through your chain. 3 loops on hook. Yarn over, pull through all 3, and now you've added 2 half double crochets to the end of your line. And you still have a nice looking bottom. Okay? Now I'm going to go off and I'm going to change yarn, and I'm going to go to my finished line and start the next yarn. Okay, I'm at the end of my half double. Got my full line done, all 5 feet of it. And I'm ready to add my second color. And because this is a half double and you have 3 stitches drawn up together, that's a pretty big piece to be adding your new color to. Because if you want to use the raw edge, you don't want a big lump here where you're adding your new color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosely draw this through. Very loosely, see? I'm going to go through the top 2, just like I would if it was a double crochet. I'd be adding it onto the last 2 loops. Pull a loop through. Okay. Need a longer end of that to tie in. And I'm going to chain 1, 2, 3, because I'll be using double crochets. And I'm going to pull this tight. And I'm going to pull this tight. And there's my end added on. See? Okay. Now, I've chained 3. I'm going to turn the yarn under me, so it comes out and it's facing the same way my needle is. Get out of there. And my feed yarn is on the inside between the edge and my work, not on the outside. That'll give me a nice neat edge. Now, when you're beginning the star pattern, you want to come out, you have a straight edge here, you want to come out with your arm because you're going to do your 2 legs on the end piece, skip 1, and on here. And because you need a space between this and your waist, you need a short arm. You don't need a real long arm, you need a short arm. So you're going to hold your stitch here. This is the stitch right below the one on your hook. Draw up just a little bit. You don't want a big arm. Shoot. You want to yarn over. That's hard to do on the end, isn't it? There you go. And you want to go back through the stitch you're holding. Now, even though this is a short arm, you can still tell it's an arm. It's nice and bunchy and pretty. Then yarn over. Come down into this first stitch. Now see, I'm not going through the partial stitch that I attached the yarn on. I'm going through the true end of the chain. Okay? Now you pull these up so that they're at least 2 stitches long. You want all your pull-ups to be at least 2 stitches long. Yarn over again. Skip 1. We're going to start the other leg. Go into that hole. Pull up your loop. Yarn over. And hold on to this little piece here. Pull your yarn through all the loops. You got it through the arm loops, the first leg loop, the second leg loops. Now remember that little piece you're holding? Stick your hook through there, pull up a loop, and slip stitch it right through the one on your hook. Right there. Now, you can clearly see you have your waist, you have your arm, you have your two legs. See? Okay. Now this gets to be a longer arm because it has to reach over to above this stitch. 1, 2 stitch, right. Has to reach over above this stitch. That's 2 stitches long. So I'm going to pull it out about as far as you did the legs. Yarn over. Go back in through that little waist. Pull the yarn out, and it's about 2 stitches long. Yarn over, come down through your first leg, yarn up, yarn over, down into your second leg, yarn up, yarn over, hold on to this, and pull through all the loops. Go back to that little piece you're holding, pull it out, and you're ready to do your next arm. See there? Now, I know it doesn't look like a star yet. You complete the star when you come back on your second loop, on your second layer. So I'm going to go through this a little bit. Yarn over through the waist, pull up a loop. Make sure your loops are at least 2 stitches long. Yarn over, go back into the foot of the leg you just did. Pull up your loop. Yarn over. Go down, skip 1 stitch, go down into the loop. The next stitch, pull up a loop. Yarn over. Hold on to the yarn. Pull a loop through all the stitches. Go back into the little piece you're holding. Pull a loop through and through the slip stitch. And you made another nice waist. Okay? So it's yarn over, through the waist, pull up a loop, stretch it out, yarn over, go into the last foot, pull up a leg, yarn over, skip 1 stitch, go into the next stitch, pull up a leg, yarn over, hold on to that piece, pull it through all. Don't get upset if that happens a lot. Just put your hook in, start over. Yarn over through the waist, yarn over through the last foot, pull up a loop, skip 1, go into the next foot, pull up a loop, hold on to this, pull through all your stitches, go back into the piece you're holding, pull up your loop, slip stitch, pull out your arm. Now you see the arms are staying pretty much the same size, and they're all the same length as the space between your feet. Okay, so your arms and the length between your feet are the same. See? That'll give you a nice even row, and you won't be growing it or shrinking it on the top. Won't be pulling. Okay, I am at the end of my foundation, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, an even number of stitches left. I should always have an even number of stitches left, because you start, the very first one would be your odd one, and then you're adding 2 stitches on each time. So if this is my first, I'd be adding a space and a stitch, space and a stitch. So your add-ons and subtractions are 2. Okay? That's why any odd number will work. Now, I have 2 stars left to do. And this is going to be the last complete one because this one's going to end on the edge. And no matter how you do this stitch, no matter how you try, you're going to end up with your edge bowing out a little bit if you don't make some pre-adjustments. So this is what we're going to do. On this star here, we're going to shorten the waist. Instead of having it be as long as these, we're going to make it a little bit shorter. Just a little bit. Yarn over through the waist, out. And you want it to be just a little bit shorter than the other one. Yarn over through your last foot, bring it up. Your next foot, bring up your leg, yarn over and through. Okay, now we're going to do the same on this. We want a short waist. So we're just going to yarn over and through. This is a lot shorter. See that? This is shorter than this one. This is a little shorter than this one. Yarn over. Yarn over through the last stitch. Make sure you go through both strands to the end. Okay. Now this time we are not making an arm. Logically, if you were to graph this out, you'd say, oh yeah, you need an arm there. Just a little shorter. It doesn't work out that way. No matter how hard I try, I've never made it work out that way. So now you just yarn over, go back to your last foot, and do a regular double crochet. Okay? Now you have a squared off edge. See that? See? Can you imagine if you had done a full arm? Or if you hadn't shortened these a little bit? It would be sticking out like this. And you'd say, what did I do wrong? Now chain 2. And turn your work. We're going to come back on the second part. Now here's where it gets touchy. You're going to have to make adjustments again. But first we're going to come down here. The waist of every stitch before now becomes the foot of your legs. And you're only working from now on in the foot of your legs. You don't touch the arm stitches. So we're going to bring up a loop, yarn over, and we're going to make it just like we do a waist. And we're going to make a very short waist, a very short arm here. You know what? No matter how I do that, it still looks like it's too long. And that doesn't make sense. Something I'm doing wrong. I'm going to chain 1. And see what that looks like. Okay, pull this out a little bit. Go back in the waist. And I want a short arm. Just like I did down here. I want a short arm. Yarn over, back into the foot. Bring it up. Yarn over, down into the next foot. Bring it up. And through all of them. Now that looks better, and it makes no sense. There should be 2 stitches there instead of 1. Go figure. 2 stitches would make it bow over wrong. This makes a nice edge for it. Okay. Now once more we want to make a little bit shorter arm because we want to draw this in just a little bit like that. Just a little bit. See? So we're going to make a shorter arm. Don't draw it up as far. Yarn over, back through the waist. Yarn over to the last foot. Bring up a leg to the next foot. Bring up a leg. Bring our yarn through. Whoops. Don't get it right yet. There we go. Split my yarn again. There. Now that adjusted it well. Don't ask me why one stitch worked here. That really does make no sense to me. It should be two. But if you do what works, you adjust as you go along. One stitch worked. It gave me a nice flat edge. And this stitch is a little bit shorter than this arm. This stitch is shorter than this arm. And it helps pull the whole thing back in and make your stars stand up. Otherwise, they'll want to slant out that away. Okay. So now we're just going to work regular all the way down to the other end. I'm going to go ahead and finish this to the end of the line, show you how I turn again. Be sure that you check your stitches in back of you, ever so many stars, to make sure that you haven't made any mistakes. Later on, I'm going to show you a mistake and how to correct it without having to tear the whole thing out. I'll see you in a little bit. I'm about a little more than a foot from my end, and I'm going to make a problem that I'm going to have to deal with when I come back. This is a pretty normal problem that you can make while you're crocheting this, because once you get used to the stitch, anything that distracts you can allow you to make the mistake. Now, at this point, I've made my waist, I've made my first leg, and I'm supposed to go to my second leg. What happens if I go ahead and complete the stitch? And then bring my arm out, go back into the waist, come back, and my attention is back where it's supposed to be, and I make my two legs and the waist. Everything seems fine. You don't really notice anything's wrong, but you will later. Okay. Do you see anything? Can you see where it's at? First of all, you can see that there's a bow here. This is straight. This is straight. You got a bow here. You follow the bow up and you start looking at the stitches opposite the bow. Here's a triangle. Here's a triangle. Here's a triangle. Here's a triangle. Oop, we've got two here. We've got a vertical line. Look at it like this. This is what you're supposed to have. Every leg, the two legs come down from the waist and they make an upward pointing triangle. The two arms going up from the waist, or the two legs coming down the next row, make a downward pointing triangle. When you don't pay attention, you end up with this. It causes an increase. Instead of one arm here between this waist and this waist, you have two, and that causes your bow. And you can tell it by one arrow going up and two arrows coming down to meet it. This is how we're going to correct it. You have to match the two downward pointing arrows with 2 upward pointing arrows. And I'll show you that when I come back. But what we will do is when we come down to the beginning of the mistake, which would be right here, and we'll make a leg, and then we'll make a leg here, and instead of making a waist, we'll make another leg. So we'll have 3 legs coming together to make the waist, and that will straighten out our line. I'll show you that when I come back from the next time. But I still have to go to the end and show you how to turn, and I'll be back. Okay, we're back at the end again, and we're in search of a straight end. Now this is going to be a little tricky, so pay attention. You yarn over, go back into your waist, you made your arm. Yarn over, go back into your leg, bring it up. Now this is where you would yarn over and go into your next leg, or bring up a waist, right? Right. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to go down into this waist that we made back here when we started our first arm. Go through 2 strands, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through that loop and that loop. See there? That loop and the last yarn over. Now, I'm going to hold on to this and pull this loop through the rest of your loops like that. And finish it just like you would a waist. Just a minute, I gotta tighten that a little bit. Held it kind of strong. Okay, pull it down. That's the one I was holding on to right there. And this is where you started. You have your first leg and your beginning in the same stitch. You have your arm coming out. You have your first 2 stitches equal up here, and you have your arm and your leg ending in the same stitch. Same stitch, same stitch. It doesn't look that way because of the way we added the yarn, but it's the same stitch. This is the end stitch. This is the end stitch. It's just where we added the yarn. So if you have 1 stitch here, you need to mirror it with 1 stitch here. Now I'm going to chain 1 again because that worked pretty good on the other side. And nope, I need to chain 2 on this one. I can tell. Okay, now I have 2 legs here. I need a leg that'll go up here. And I need a leg that'll go up here. So I don't have room to come down with a leg, do I? You see that? This has to have part of a waist coming off of it, because we have a leg coming up from here and a leg coming up from here. And if I go down to a leg from here, I'm going to be adding a stitch. Okay? So I need to make a little bit of an arm. I don't want a long one because we don't want our thing to bulge out. See the little arm I made here? So much smaller than the others. So I'm going to pull this out just a little bit, yarn over, and come right back into that stitch. Not much of an arm, huh? Then I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to go down into the last waist, which is the top of the edge stitch we just did. Yarn over, go down into the next leg. Remember, we need a leg and a leg to come up to a waist. Yarn over, hold it, bring it through all the stitches. Whoop, 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 lost it. Lost it. There we go. And we have a nice straight edge again. Very short arm. We've got our 2 legs descending, our 2 legs ascending. Up and down. Triangle to triangle. Okay? Now I'm going to go on until I get to my mistake. Remember I told you I made a mistake? I showed you the mistake. Here it is. Okay, I've reached the problem. I've reached this point where I have 2 arms and 3 legs coming into 1 waist. See here? We have 3 legs and 2 arms when you're supposed to have 2 legs and 1 arm. Okay? So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and make this one like normal. Okay. Now this is going to be the one that fixes it. I'm going to come yarn over, come down into the first leg, bring up a leg, yarn over, come down into the top of the second leg, bring up a loop, yarn over. Then I'm going to go down into the third leg. We're going to have 3 legs here. Bring up a loop. To all the puppies. Get out of there. Get out of there. I didn't invite you to the party. See that? Let me get these out of the way. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and make an arm. Come back into the third leg. Go into the next leg. That's where the problem was. No hump, no hump. Nice and straight. Let me do another one. First time I did it this way, I didn't discover it until I was coming back on a long leg, and it was about a foot from the end, I guess. It was a 5.5 foot scarf. I would have had to undo 5 feet of scarf going that way, 5 feet of scarf going this way, undo my mistake, and then recrochet 10 feet of the pattern. And I said, you know what? There's got to be an easier way to fix it. And that's what I did. And nobody even knew it was there unless I told them. Okay. There. If you were just looking along there, would you really be able to tell where it's at? Huh? If you got a real careful eye to it, you can tell that there's something funky going on in there, but it really isn't obvious. And you solved the problem without having to undo a tremendous amount of work to correct it. And that's how you take care of that. Now I'm going to go on down to the end using my regular stitches. I'll meet you at the end of this row because this will be This is our third row. We've done 2 here. We've done 2 rows. This is our third row. So now we have part of our pattern. We're going to put an alternate color in here. We're going to put this color in here. And then we're going to do 3 more rows. I'll be back at the end. Okay, I've reached my end. And I want you, before we start on this, you want to look at it. You have here an up pointing triangle, a down pointing triangle. The next one is an up pointing triangle. This arm goes out to the edge, and they both come in like this. So you're not going to have an arm coming out to the edge of your side here. You're going to have a short arm like here. They're going to mirror each other. So we're going to make the waist. Come down and do the both legs. Come through. And now you need a short arm. See here? If I stopped now, I wouldn't have a straight side. So I come out, I go back into my hole, yarn over, down into my waist, bring it up through 2 loops, bring it up through 3 loops, I think I made this a little too long. It should be short like this one. No problem. Easy fix. Bring it down. Make sure you don't pull it out. And do a regular double, going through 2, and then go through 3. Now there, that's all it needed. See there? See? Now I'm ready to add the second color. And I'm not going to do it like I did the first time. I didn't like the way that turned out. I'm going to go through here, pull up a loop. And you notice I put my tail in here. That's because if you don't, you're going to have this tail knot sticking out, and it's going to drive you nuts. Never looks right. Okay. Oops. I'm going to go through both yarns, both tails, the feed and the tail. I'll show you why in a minute. Chain 1, chain 2. Tighten down your tail yarn here. And turn. Now, see you have 2 strands of yarn on this side. You have 2 strands of yarn on this side. Looks like a regular stitch. If you don't come through the 2 strands, you have one side on one stitch on one side, and it just does not look right. Okay, yarn over and through the waist. Now you want to check and make sure that you're lining your stitches up properly, okay? You have a hole. You have a waist over a hole where the arm is, over a waist, over a hole where the arm would be. You have your end stitch. You have your end stitch. So you're lined up properly. If your second stitch was right here, you'd be adding two stitches in between here and here instead of one. You only have one stitch between here and here. See there? Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and I will pop back in a second. I want to show you something. What I've done here is I did half doubles, doubles, and singles to show you what it looks like when you come back to do your second row. Your half doubles and your doubles are pretty close in size. You've got a little bit wider band of color with the doubles, but really not that much difference between the half and the doubles. If you want a narrow band, just a little thread of color to make it look pretty, this is the single, and this is what you would have with the single. They're properly matched up. You would have where they would look on the bottom. If it wasn't properly matched, you'd have a more of a zigzag type thing instead of a bunch of diamonds. But that's a nice look. And this is a very consistent look. I think I like both of them better than the double. Either one. Anyway, I wanted to show you that. I'm going to go ahead and take this out, come back to where I started with my half double. And I'm going to go on to the end of the line. Okay? Talk to you later. My row of half doubles is complete. And I'm adding on the star yarn again. Pull the loop up. Trap your tail in there. Go around both the tail of the new yarn and the feed yarn. Pull that snug. Okay. And we're going to chain one. And from this, we're going to pull off a loop. Go back. Pull off a loop. And we're not pulling the loops out. This is a short waist, a short arm. Get out of there. Yarn over. Bring up a loop. Yarn over. Skip one stitch. Go into the next stitch. Pull up a loop. Yarn over and hold on to it. And pull it through all the loops. Okay. Now, this looks a little funky here right now, but that's because it's laying over. This part right here is where you'll be connecting when you come back, and that gives you a nice straight side, a short arm, and your two regular size legs. Okay? So, pull that out, put it back, pull it out. Okay. Now, this part down here started in this direction, came back, went in this direction. We came back with this. So this next 3 rows are exactly the same as these 3. You'll want to start them the same way and you'll want to end them the same way. They're exactly identical. And then we're going to come back and we're going to put half double crochet on the end of it, and we'll have 2 full panels and a nice finished scarf. Okay? I'll be back. This is the scarf done. The edge is real nice. I'm very happy with it. So I won't be doing an edging on it. See, that turned out really nice. The second half is exactly identical to the first half. Every start and finish is the same. You end up with a nice flat edge. Nice long scarf. Nice edge. Okay. Now there's different variations you can do on this. If you would like the stars themselves to really show up, you can do a row of half double in the same color, and then a row of the stars, and then a row of the half double, and you'll have just the stars. You have a row of stars like that. You can also substitute any of these puff lines that come down in the descending V and the upper V. You can take these and change them for regular double crochet, and it'll make every other star stand out. So you can take these two here and make them regular double crochet, gather them along with the arms, pull a regular arm off of it, come down in your gather stitch, come down in your gather stitch, make your waist, bring your arm out, come down in a double crochet, come down in a double crochet, bring your arm out, and go on like that. You'll make a distinct star here. You'll make a distinct star here, and it'll be surrounded by a regular double crochet. And then you can have your half double on the top and a half double on the bottom, and you'll have your stars. It'll also make your scarf a little thicker too. Anyway, I'm going to start the hat, and I'm going to break this up into two parts. So part one is the scarf, and part two will be the hat. For the hat, I'll be using the same two colors, and this pattern here will be the side of the hat. I'm going to use the regular half double crochet crown out of the base color here, and that will be part two. So I'll see you in part two. Bye.